hopes alive. The division leaders, San Francisco, Dallas, and Minnesota. New Orleans will be in the playoffs. The Eagles and the Packers have both won their games, and the Redskins are looking to continue their success. Hello again, everyone. I'm Dick Stockton along with Randy Cross. It was 5 weeks ago that the Giants achieved their best victory of the season, but they don't have Lawrence Taylor, and they have a rookie quarterback, Kent Graham, instead of Jeff Hostetler. On the other side of the coin, the Redskins looking to be a lot healthier than they have been lately. Well, specifically, they've gotten healthy in the offensive line, and in this weather, you got to run the ball. But when Washington throws the ball, Rippon's got to complete him. He's got to get some long ones. On the other side of the ball, their quarterback on defense, Brad Edwards, coming off his greatest game, is going to have to challenge Kent Graham. They're going to have to stop the run. Last time they faced these Giants, the Giants got 241 yards rushing. Okay, now the much-awaited cross-examination. Well, I think you've got to give the edge as far as offense goes. Redskins. Defense, Redskins. Special teams, Redskins. Team speed, Redskins. But intangibles, remember, the Giants have won 7 of the last 9 of these games. And in talking to the Redskins, they're convinced that in the matchup, the Giants have the edge. And it is a cold day, and you get an idea of the wind, which could be a crosswind here at Giants Stadium, which could wreak havoc for quarterbacks and kickers alike. Giants have won the toss, and they'll get the ball first. Chip Lohmiller will kick off for Washington. Dave Meggett and Joey Smith are back deep, and we're underway. And it's headed for Dave Meggett. Meggett returns and is dropped just beyond the 15-yard line. So starting his second NFL game is rookie Kent Graham, an 8th-round pick out of Ohio State. And the Giants have made some changes in their offensive line. Brian Williams replaces Bart Oates at center and Bob Cratch for the injured Eric Moore at right guard. The backfield, Rodney Hampton and Jared Bunch, 2 outstanding running backs. Ed McCaffrey and Chris Callaway will start in place of Stephen Baker, who has been in a slump. First down for the Giants on their 16. Giants starting out with 2 tight ends. And the pitch is to Rodney Hampton. And Hampton, and a penalty marker flies from upfield on the first play, and Hampton is stopped for no gain. Referee is Gary Lane this afternoon. Giants have lost 3 in a row after winning 3 straight games. And it goes against the Giants, putting him in deeper trouble.
Holding offense, number 33 on the run.
It was the fullback Jared Bunch.
First down. And what Ray Handley's young quarterback Mark Graham's going to see, look at all these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And there's somebody out in here, 10 up. You're going to challenge the run. You're going to say, Kent Graham, if you're going to beat us, you better do it throwing. And they have no respect in talking to them for the Giants wide receivers.
They're on the 8-yard line, and up the middle is Hampton. Charles Mann makes the tackle in a gain of 3 yards, so the Giants start out in a big hole against these Redskins, and Mark Ingram is in the lineup. He was out with a twisted knee suffered against these Redskins, and that really affected the Giant passing game, but Ingram is back in there now for New York.
And interestingly enough, Dick, on that first down play, or the last 2 plays, the Redskins had 3 safeties in. Their starting cornerback, Alvoid Mays, was out of there, had 3 safeties up close to stuff the run.
Second down and 15. The Giants go with 3 wide receivers. Still only 1 running back, and it's Meggett, but the pass is caught by Cross, the tight end, and Howard Cross, who had a big day against the Redskins at RFK Stadium earlier this year, gets 10 yards. Monty Coleman and Alvoid Mays on the tackle. Philadelphia over Minnesota. So the Vikings can't clinch the Central Division, but Green Bay remains in the playoff hunt. Pittsburgh coming from behind to beat Seattle. The Seahawks led deep into the second half.
And this is a perfect blitz situation for Richie Pettibone's defense. Go after this young quarterback, especially out of the slot you see over in the right-hand side. Bring a blitz off that area, get after Graham, and make him think.
Out of the shotgun, Jumpy Gethers in for pass rushing on 3rd and 5. They flush him out of the pocket. Graham has nowhere to go and steps out of bounds. And that'll bring up 4th down. So you mentioned the extra safeties downfield, and the Redskins with good coverage of the Giant receivers and a loss of 9.
Well, look at the Giants formation. They're keeping a couple extra blockers, but look at all these people up by the line of scrimmage. If these guys read that the defenders or the offenders are pass blocking, they're going to come after Kent Graham. Graham's got to get the short passes off to a back, a short pass off to a tight end to keep the pressure off him.
Ruben Rodriguez, who was dropped by Denver and picked up by the Giants this week as they wave Joe Prokop, punting for the first time. He's a left-footed kicker and gets off a good one. And it'll be Desmond Howard inside his 40-yard line, and he is dropped with great coverage. Renee Thompson for the Giants. A 45-yard kick and a 3-yard loss, and Thompson with good hustle. So Mark Rippon, who is still rated last in the NFC amongst the quarterbacks, will lead the Redskins. And offensively, as Randy said, they're getting healthy. Lachey came back last week. McKenzie back at center. And Ed Simmons is at right tackle. Ron Middleton is the tight end. Don Warren is on injured reserve. And Ernest Biner, the running back, and the posse. Art Monk, Gary Clark, and Ricky Sanders. All 3 caught touchdown passes last week against the Cardinals. 1st and 10 on the 35. 2 tight ends, 3 with Jenkins and Orr joining Middleton. And it's Biner crashing off the right side and cutting up the middle, and a good gain, maybe enough for a 1st down. Myron Guyton, who's at strong safety, making the tackle.
Get used to seeing that play a lot tonight, folks. The counter, backside, leading in here. That is exactly what the Redskins want to do. They want to get this running game established quick, and they want to get their big left tackle, Jim Lachey, leading through the holes for Biner. This Giants defense last week against the Dallas Cowboys really showed some weakness against the run. And if they get Lachey and Brown on the backside working, it's bad news for the Giants.
1st down, Redskins on their own 45-yard line. And here is Biner going up the middle. And he is close to midfield, and a gain of 4 yards with Carl Banks making the tackle. Giants defensively, Eric Dorsey, Eric Howard, and Leonard Marshall in their base defense. Banks, Pepper Johnson, Ed Reynolds again playing for Steve Diassi, who is on injured reserve, and Corey Miller. They miss Lawrence Taylor in a big way. Mark Collins and Perry Williams are the cornerbacks. Greg Jackson, the free safety, and Myron Guyton seeing his first regular season action at strong safety. 2nd down and 6 at the 49-yard line. Ricky Sanders in motion, and it's another running play to Biner, and he is stopped cold. And that was Carl Banks for his 2nd straight tackle and a loss of 1.
We'll see 2 very similar defensive philosophies, I think, early. Both these teams are going to crowd the line of scrimmage and try to take the running game away and try to put the ball in the air. If the ball has to be in the air, though, the advantage goes over to the Redskins. They have a much more sophisticated offense, and they have a big edge with Rippon against Graham.
They come out with 4 wide receivers, and 3 of them bunched to the top of the screen, including Desmond Howard. Now they move Art Monk on 3rd down and 7. Banks trying to put pressure on Rippon, but Rippon completes the pass. No, it is incomplete. In and out of the hands of Ricky Sanders. But Rippon has Sanders, and all Ricky had to do was hold on to the ball. It'll be 4th down.
And for all the hype of the posse, they talk about these 3 great wide receivers. This is one thing this group does do quite frequently, and that's drop balls, especially early in ball games like this. What makes that critical is, remember, Mark Rippon, you mentioned last rated quarterback in the conference. He needs the confidence. He needs to know his guys are going to get it, because he knows he's going to have Banks and the blitzes coming after him too.
He threw 2 touchdown passes last week, but it was not an outstanding game. Pressure on Goodburn, and he gets off a kick that bounces in front of Dave Meggett. And it'll be down by the Redskins just inside the 20-yard line. So the Giants withstood bad field position at the start of the game, and they'll take over when we return. Result of the Eagles and Packers winning today. The playoff picture looks like this. The Niners and the Saints have clinched playoff berth. The Cowboys are in the playoffs with a win against Denver, and they're underway now, or a loss by the Redskins. But this is an important game now for the Washington, with Green Bay and Philadelphia winning, Randy. They've got to keep pace. You know, Joe Gibbs talking to him, he just basically takes the approach of, I'm not worried about formulas.
we win all of the rest of our games against the big physical teams we have in the NFC East and the Raiders in that last game. We don't worry about formulas.
First down on the 19-yard line. Movement in the line. And it was Jared Bunch. Stopped for no gain.
And that movement was right at the snap. That's why you didn't see a little yellow flag on the ground. But watch Kurt Govea, the middle linebacker, plays this perfectly. Look at him at the right side of the screen. See the jump that was right before the snap. And Govea, that's what middle linebackers do. They spend their week studying formations and studying blocking combinations. He saw the center block back Williams, and as soon as he saw that block back, he was gone.
He did his film study well. Shane Collins is at right end. Fred Stokes is coming on passing down. And the give is to Dave Meggett, who brings it out beyond the 20-yard line. Gain of 3. Giants are using Meggett a lot more before third down than they did earlier this year.
But, Dick, if you're going to use a Dave Meggett against the Washington Redskins defense, you're better served going outside and taking advantage of his quickness. And not that the Redskins are slow, but they're not the fastest defense. You got to try to outflank these guys because their strength is in the middle up front.
Talked about Fred Stokes. He is back in the game as a pass rusher along with Jumpy Geathers. Third down and 7 for the Giants on their 22. Out of the shotgun is Kent Graham. And the blitz by Wilbur Marshall is picked up the middle, and the pass is incomplete. Mark Ingram on a crossing pattern. And it was Richie Pettibone, the Redskins assistant head coach of defense. He said, we catch a break by having the rookie quarterback in there, and they blitzed Wilbur Marshall on that play.
And I really think the Giants catch a break getting Ingram back. You know, it's been since last time these two teams played that Ingram's been in uniform, and they need somebody that can make things happen. They don't have a wide receiver that is really a threat. Nobody loses any sleep worrying about Giant wide receivers.
Ruben Rodriguez, who got off a good kick in his first attempt inside his 10. Desmond Howard and Brian Mitchell are back. This kick not quite as good. And a chance to return for Brian Mitchell. Remember, in that first game this year, he returned a punt 84 yards for a touchdown against the Giants. This time he only gets 6. We'll be back to Giant Stadium in just a moment. Dick Stockton and Randy Cross at Giant Stadium. The Redskins have had the better of the field position battle so far in a scoreless game. First down on their 48-yard line. Ricky Irvins has replaced Biner at running back. And a play fake on first down. And Rippon has time, and the ball goes right through Biner, who was wide open. And it was Irvins, or Irvins that is, who is the intended receiver, incomplete.
And the Giants are showing Mark Rippon and the Redskins a little different look, too, because they pulled a linebacker, and they've got McGriggs in there, 38, an extra safety. So they got 3, 3, and 5. And that's just no excuse there. That's a matter of just concentration. That ball should have been caught. But you got to make Mark Rippon, you got to make this offense think about as many things as possible. They haven't been executing crisply, and if they're not reacting naturally, that's when they're in trouble.
Lamar McGriggs has replaced Myron Guyton, the man who replaced him this week, as Irvin comes left and picks up 3 yards. Eric Howard, the nose tackle, and Lamar McGriggs making the stop. McGriggs was an unhappy soldier when he was told that Guyton was coming back to replace him in the lineup.
Well, actually, you know, starting lineups these days in the NFL, I think, are mostly ego. I mean, unless you're an offensive lineman, everybody else rotates. Defenses use so many looks, it's not that big a deal. You're not a starter.
Guyton is back in there. Third down and 7. 4 wide receivers. Mark Rippon gets time. His pass up the middle, and it's caught by Sanders this time. And the Redskins get into Giant territory in a first down and a gain of 15 yards with Greg Jackson and Perry Williams making the tackle on Sanders.
Now that play, they gave him that same 3-3-5 look. They brought McGriggs in as that extra defensive back, extra safety. But watch what Sanders does this time. This time he brings that ball all the way in. He knows he's in a crowd. Look at that, 2 hands on the ball. A little bit different ball reaction and ball maintenance there from that first catch that Ricky dropped.
He's had a good year. 3rd leading receiver on the team with 36 catches coming in. And a first down for the Redskins. Ernest Biner checks back in on the 34 of the Giants. Still no score, first quarter, 7:20 remaining. And here is Biner looking up the middle. And Biner picks up about 4.
You know, we talk about the running game, and now the offensive line is back, and how critical it is for these Redskins to put a push on towards the playoff with their running game. But to me, more importantly, Mark Rippon and the posse have to get more involved than they have been in the past. You look at the production drop-off, that's amazing. Touchdowns, that's pretty amazing. But the long game is where you really see the big drop-off, the 50-plus yard passes. And that's where Rippon's had the biggest problems this year.
2nd down and 7 on the 31-yard line. A short drop and a quick pitch. And the pass is caught by Gary Clark. A gain of 6 yards, and Perry Williams is covering Clark, who is the leading receiver and has caught 5 touchdown passes this year.
And I think this is a good game plan, patience-wise, by Joe Gibbs and these Redskins. Pound the ball in there, little short passing, test the patience of the Giants defense. Remember, this is the bickering Giants defense that's pointed fingers at the coordinator and each other. And I think the big question for the defense isn't, are they playing well? I'm not sure these guys know the defense and the scheme more than anything else.
Middleton, the tight end, moves to the right side. 3rd down and 2. Rippon. And his pass. And the pass is caught by Ricky Sanders, and it'll be a 1st down. The Giants have yet to put any pressure on Mark Rippon. Sanders with a 15-yard catch with Jackson pushing him out of bounds.
Well, the Giants now are rated 27th in the league in sacks, only 18 coming in today. And they don't even breathe on Rippon. And when you see Rippon start to throw and then pull that thing in, there's a real good reason. And the reason he pulls it back in like that is he sees a receiver coming free. If you're a Giant fan and you see him double pumping like that, you got to look out for a big play.
3 tight ends for the Redskins on 1st and 10 at the 11, and Biner powers his way to about the 5 and maybe inside the 5-yard line. Joe Gibbs talking before the game how the Giants have always been a tough matchup, but without Lawrence Taylor in there, you know the Giant defense is certainly not as tough as they've been.
Well, it all comes down to one thing for the Redskins in this game, and that's surge. And Joe Gibbs knows having Lachey back. You know, Joe Jacoby isn't in there right now. Schlereth has started at right guard. But having a Jacoby available, having these big, healthy linemen, is how much this line pushes back the front 7 of the Giants will be the key today.
2nd down and 4 from the 5-yard line, and Biner gets close. Biner, who gained only 32 yards the first time these teams played, picks up 4. Carl Banks and Myron Guyton.
When we talk about the push, look at Jenkins coming in motion. Gets a little wham block on Eric Howard, the nose guard, and the whole push. Did you notice how things opened up and blue jerseys were up above the white jerseys? If you see that on a consistent basis, you're seeing a defense in trouble.
Giants only needed to get to the 1-yard line, or the Redskins, to get the 1st down. And the Redskins will have 1st and goal at the 1.
67 has reported as an eligible receiver.
Surprisingly enough, they are the 2nd lowest in the National Football League scoring touchdowns inside the 20, the red zone.
And that's the important stat. People always talk about scoring inside the red zone. Anybody can kick a field goal. Can you punch it in? A lot of that is the line.
Ray Brown is lining up as a tight end on 1st and goal. And getting over for the touchdown is Ernest Biner. The Redskins score with 4 minutes and 23 seconds remaining in the 1st quarter. They had great field position on both of their possessions, and Rippon had all the time he needed to set up the touchdown.
It's called power surge and a power back. Redskins are a little late. There's not a real big push. But look what Biner does. Biner just drills into the back of Terry Middleton, his tight end, knocks him into the end zone, and by doing that, he falls into the end zone.
Biner's touchdown, his 5th of the year rushing, and Chip Lohmiller. Extra point is good. Chip Lohmiller has now kicked 191 consecutive point-after touchdowns. For the Giants, and that man, head coach Ray Handley. And of course, anytime a team strikes early, and if they do it often here at Giant Stadium, you'll be hearing the chorus from the crowd. But the Giants have to know that they're playing for their jobs as well. And let's see what they do on this possession. Jared Bunch on the short kickoff gets some room up the middle. That has to be the shortest kick we've seen Lohmiller ever attempt. 17-yard return by Bunch, and the Giants will bring it up close to the 35-yard line.
There's a couple of people to keep an eye on these last touchdowns. Watch Ray Brown on Corey Miller. You like that matchup. Watch Mark Collins in a free safety position come and try to fill and trip over the back of Corey Miller's feet. He's got a shot. He's got a shot at Biner, and there he goes. He trips. Biner goes into Brown's back, and that's a soft spot.
First down for the Giants on the 34-yard line. Derek Brown and Howard Cross, two tight ends. Ingram in motion and a play fake. Man and charging Graham. He gets away and tries to run, and he is hit by 3 Redskins as he gets out beyond the 40-yard line. It was Shane Collins and Jason Buck. A gain of 8 yards.
Now you talk about a coverage stack. Watch the defensive backfield of the Redskins. Just look at the right side of the screen. Watch as the receivers come out. He has got nowhere to go. Where do you go? Who do you hit here? You can't throw it here. You can't throw it here. You might dump it here, but that's kind of a neutral type thing because he's going to be covered quick.
Second down and 2 at the 42-yard line. And here's Jared Bunch, and he dives forward for the first down. Good acceleration by the fullback. And a gain of 6 yards. Collins on the stop.
And we saw how everybody's playing a little bit of the 8-9 man up early on both sides. Look at here. There's 7 you can see, but take my word for it. There's a safety right behind those linebackers. But the biggest cure, the best cure for 8-man up is a big surge from your offensive line. And with the changes up front with Williams and Kratch in there for Moore and Oates, you think you get a little bit more enthusiasm and excitement on that line for the Giants.
On their 48-yard line, first down, Rodney Hampton cuts off right tackle, and a good hold for Hampton. He gets into Redskin territory, and a gain of 12 yards for Rodney Hampton, who came in with 907 yards on the year. Green and Bowles on the tackle.
You know, I really think as Wilbur Marshall goes, so go the Washington Redskins on defense. Look at Big Riesenberg mauling him here. That's called putting the guy right down on his face and leaving him no chance to make a tackle. That is exactly what the Giants need to do today, and that's what Wilbur Marshall and his defensive coordinator, Richie Pettibone, know the Giants did to him all night last time they played.
Hampton had a big game. This will be a play-action pass by Graham. He has time, and his pass is tipped and nearly intercepted by Wilbur Marshall.
If there's a ball in the air or a ball on the ground, Wilbur Marshall is going to be somewhere near it. Somehow, some way, that's a guy that is going to be near making a big play. But it's a good job by Kent Graham. Watch the poise he shows. Johnson gets in his face early. That's why you get a little inverted pocket there. But he zips this one a little bit too much in this type of weather. You got to put the ball right into the body. You can't leave it in front or behind, or I think the receiver has no chance with that kind of speed on it.
He was going for Hampton. Marshall with a big interception last week in a lateral. He can motor. Second down and 10 on the 40-yard line, and here is Hampton going off the left side. And good pursuit laterally by the Redskins. Shane Collins stops Hampton after a gain of only 1 yard.
Well, you want to blitz and you want to attack this young quarterback, and you want to get some free shots in the middle if you can break somebody free. Brian Williams says, not this time, Wilbur. Wilbur tries to come up the middle, and Williams just smushes him. Nice play by the young center. I mean, it's good for the Giants. They're getting a chance to see what this young guy can do, Williams. They've had Oates in there. Oates had a bad time on Thanksgiving Day against Dallas, and I think Ray Hanley's thinking is just, hey, this guy's a top pick. We got to see what he can do. He's been here a few years, just cashing checks.
Third down and 9. And he's going to get his opportunity from the 39. Pressure on Graham, and down he goes. You know that Richie Pettibone licking his chops coming into this game, facing a rookie quarterback, and a loss of 9 yards. That was Tim Johnson.
The key matchup for the Giants right here. Roberts not having a very good year so far. He's played pretty poorly the last couple weeks, and he's got to do his job. But on the other side, Kratch is the one this time that gets Johnson, and Johnson gets a quick ripping through. So Roberts did his part, but the new starter, Kratch, didn't do his.
Rodriguez with the kick. And Desmond Howard called for the fair catch. The Giants trying to down it inside the 5, and they will. Well, for a change, the Redskins will not have good field position. Kanavis McGee down the kick by Rodriguez. And it'll be Redskins ball deep in their own territory. Jersey, 52 seconds remain in the first quarter. Redskins have had good field position up until now. And you factor the fact that they're starting from the 4 for their own 29. They've been up around midfield prior to this.
And I think one of the key people all night today, or all day today, for the Giants is going to be Corey Miller. You know, the Dallas Cowboys went after Corey Miller last week, challenged him with some pulling linemen and some tight ends. And if I'm going after the Giant defense here, I go after that side of the defense.
Starting from the 4-yard line, Rippon had good protection so far. Ernest Biner looking for running room and gets out of real trouble, picks up 4 yards on first down.
You know, that's a play there. Did that look very spectacular? I mean, that didn't look like much of an offensive play, but suddenly that big blue surge was moving the wrong way, and Biner didn't make any real tricky moves and didn't get any great blocks, but the entire lines on both sides just moved 4 or 5 yards.
Redskin offensive line, they've had about 10 different combinations this year and starting to get healthy, and they feel that they're going to be a tough team to contend with if they make the playoffs when that happens in January. Second down and 6 from the 8-yard line. Final seconds of the first quarter. Again, here is Biner off the right side, and he'll have close to first down yardage. He has stopped just short of the 15-yard line, and it was Pepper Johnson and Renee Thompson in on the stop as the first quarter comes to a close. And that is the end of the first quarter here at Giants Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, with the score, the Washington Redskins 7 and the New York Giants nothing.
Side of the defense go this way, and the trouble that puts Corey Miller in, defending against an all-pro tackle one-on-one in air. End of discussion, end of report.
Start of the second quarter, first down on the 15-yard line of the Redskins. And here is Ernest Biner getting to the 20-yard line. Thompson and Johnson on the tackle. Lawrence Taylor, who said this week that his return, he had thought that he would return from his Achilles problem, but the injury to Dennis Byrd put some more doubts in his mind.
Well, you know, people talk about him being the great sacker, but look at the influence. I really think he had a bigger influence on the rushing defense than in the pass sack. I mean, he was leading them in sacks, but defensively, this has been a defense that was almost impossible to run against.
Second and 5 on the 20. Again, Rippon has a lot of time, and he flips it out of the backfield to Biner. And Biner gets to about the 25-yard line. He may have another first down. Corey Miller was there on the stop. Tough to fill in for Lawrence Taylor.
And we'll get a little look at how Corey's doing. Play action. Sucks him up a little bit. But look at him react and close. He and Pepper Johnson, did a nice job. Good form tackle. And tough shoes to fill. You know, he and Kanavis McGee have basically gotten the joint job of replacing Lawrence Taylor. And actually, Corey's a little shaken up after that last hit. You know, one of those shoulders head through the middle and slam the guy down. That can shake up a defender almost as much as it can an offensive player at times.
Giants planning to use a lot of young people in this game and the rest of the way, such as Hamilton, Sparks, and Kanavis McGee, who has checked in replacing Miller. It is another first down for the Redskins on their 25-yard line. They lead 7-0 early in the second quarter. Redskins with 3 tight ends, and it's going to be Biner up the middle. Bread and butter blocking, and a gain of 6 yards. Right now, for an NFL Today update, let's go across the river to Greg Gumbel. Greg?
All right, Dick, and in Denver, the Broncos shuttling quarterbacks on every play. This time, Tommy Maddox is in and finds Vance Johnson, who scores from 18 yards out to cut Dallas's lead in half. It's 14-7 Cowboys. They're just starting the second quarter. Dick, back across the river to you.
All right, Greg, thanks very much. Dallas Cowboys and the 49ers, both with the best record in the NFC, looking for ultimate wild card. Home field advantage. Biner on the handoff, gets a couple of yards. Marshall and McGee making the stop. In his first game against the Giants, Biner gained only 32 yards. And Biner has gained already 51 yards in this game, and a lot can be credited to a healthier offensive line for Washington.
And they're running multiple counters. And one of the key people in running the counters is the tight end, and the blocks they make not only at H-back but also tight end. And one of those guys is down, and Middleton got rolled up the back of that pile, just came up right in the back of Middleton's legs there.
Tough blow for the Redskins, who are already without Don Warren, who is on injured reserve, and they hope to get him back for the playoffs. But Middleton is shaken up and hurting, and we'll take a break. Scoring, Graham off to a 1-for-3 and 10-yard start, getting a lot of pressure from the Redskin defense. 7-0 to score. Dick Stockton and Randy Cross with just inside 13 minutes remaining in the second quarter. Middleton is on the sidelines, and he's replaced by James Jenkins. Keith Hamilton has come up front, replacing Eric Dorsey at left defensive end for the Giants. 3rd down and 2 on the Redskin 33. Rippon completes the pass, and out of bounds is Ricky Sanders. He's off to a hot start in this first half. A pickup of 8 yards for Sanders.
And good job by Rippon of standing in there, because he was getting some heat from Hamilton, number 75, coming right in his face. And actually had his arms on Rippon as he threw that ball. And that's the kind of thing that Rippon needs to do in repetitive nature, and that gets his confidence back. It's one thing to know that you're not going to be touched. It's another thing to know that you're going to be touched a little bit, but you can still complete your pass.
Giants put some pressure on Rippon for the first time. They send the wide receivers out to the left as they start from the 42-yard line, and Biner on the handoff, and Ernest Biner darts his way beyond the 45-yard line, and a good gain of 4 on first down. Corey Miller and Renee Thompson make the tackle.
And Biner just turned that from a 3-yard loss into a gain, because Banks was all over him in the backfield, put a nice little move on him and got that extra yardage, and it really should right now be about 2nd and 13 or 14. But the emphasis here for the Redskins is on the running game. You haven't seen them throw a pass more than 10 yards down the field.
They may be setting that up. 2nd down and 6 at the 46-yard line. That's where the play action becomes extra effective. Rippon with a straight drop, and out of the backfield is Biner. He gets into Giant territory, wide open, and another Redskin first down. Thompson making the tackle after a pickup of 11 yards.
Now what you have to look at here is watch the defense all head in this direction, and watch this gap that opens up right about in here for the offense. Watch this. There won't be anybody around for Biner when he swings out of the backfield. Look at the defenders. They're all running backwards. It's a nice job by Rippon of just reading the defense, seeing he's getting a deep drop zone, and just dumping it off to his back.
Ron Middleton is checked back in the game for the Redskins, and Ricky Urban's at running back. First and on the 10 on the Giant 44. Crowd becoming restless early in this one. It's only 7-0 still, but we heard a smattering of boos as Urban breaks off left tackle and shows some of that great speed on artificial turf and picks up 16 yards inside the 30, and now the crowd starts to react.
Well, we talked about the Redskins, and if you attack them, they're not the fastest defense. Well, these Giants, I think, are one of the slowest defenses in the league, and watch how they don't react and don't get off blocks here. It wasn't a matter of having great blocks on the Giant defenders, but it was a matter of just getting off the blocks.
In the first 7 games of the year, the Redskins rushed for an average of 119 yards, and then problems in the middle, but they picked it up last week.
And they're already about halfway to last week's numbers.
First down on the 29 of the Giants. Again, using the extra tight end. And penalty markers fly.
That's just the case of the offensive line with all the motion and everything else going on. They knew how long they were going to wait. They weren't waiting any longer.
Start, offense, number 87, before the snap. 5-yard penalty, repeat first down.
It's against Middleton, and it'll be first down and 15.
Well, it's more about the whole left side of that line on that penalty, but you see the eagerness of these Redskins to get off the ball and block. They're just looking to get this running game and pound it at these Giants, because they know they've got a team here and a defense that's not only bickering, but is not getting off blocks.
First and 15 from the 34. This is the 11th play of the drive for the Redskins, and Irvins is hit hard. for no gain. Carl Banks making the play, and Eric Dorsey as well.
Well, you talk about filling and getting off blocks, but if you're not going to get blocked, you got to make the tackle, and Carl Banks does not get blocked here and does a textbook job of putting Ricky Irvins down.
Carl Banks, one of the veterans of what people say are an aging Giant defense that needs some shoring up with young people. How old are they really?
They're not that old. I just don't think they're that good.
That takes care of that. Second down and 15 on the 34. Rippon rolling out. He flips it to Ricky Irvins, and Irvins inside the 30. He takes a couple of hits, and it gets close to another Redskin first down. A gain of 14 yards. Big pressure on Mark Rippon, who managed to flip it to Irvins in time.
Well, that's the design play, a little shovel pass, and that's exactly what you want to have happen. You see Ray Handley saying wrap him up when you hit him, and you got to wrap him up. You let Banks go, and the reason you let him go is you got your lineman getting out in front and blocking. And then you see the nightmare for the Redskins, and that's Ricky Irvins on AstroTurf. A completely different runner when you get number 32 on this artificial surface. He's got a lot of wiggle, he's got a lot of speed, and I think his effectiveness goes up by about 40% when you get him on this non-grass.
He looks forward to games like this, and Mark Rippon not happy with the alignment and calls a timeout, the first by the Redskins in this first half. Sun Devil Stadium, and it all begins with the NFL today. Third down and 1. Joe Jacoby is in at left guard, and a penalty marker is down as Ernest Biner carries, but
you'd expect him to go over that left side with big Joe Jacoby in there at left guard for Brown, who's now a tight end, but it was Middleton, the right tight end, I believe, that just sprang off sides face first.
Middleton was shaken up a little while ago. He came back and has committed 2 penalties.
False start, offense, number 87, before the snap, 5-yard penalty, third down.
You're right, it wasn't even the side the Redskins were running.
And you know Middleton's got to feel bad. Just last week he got missed wide open. Mark Rippon had him wide open in the end zone. He had a chance to get his first touchdown pass and didn't quite work out, and now he gets a little dinged up and he gets a few mental errors going against him. But now suddenly the Redskins have gone from an obvious pounded away type down situation to a position where the posse's in, 4 wides, and let's throw this ball.
Third down and 6. From the 25-yard line, Mark Rippon, who went into the game with the lowest touchdown percentage in the NFC, despite the fact that he threw 2 against the Cardinals last week. Jacoby is the left guard again. And they have Art Monk wide to the right. Third down, and the pass to Ricky Sanders, the first down, and inside the 15 to about the 11. Myron Guyton the tackle, and a big first half for Ricky Sanders and a gain of 14 yards.
Well, the Redskins initially lined up in that power I with Terry Orr at fullback and Ricky Sanders in the middle. Sanders went off to the right in almost a fullback position and just swings straight out of the backfield, and he's wide open. There is nobody on him, and that right there has got to be some sort of a blown coverage. That was not man. That was a zone coverage, and no one in the middle of that defense in the linebacker position filled up on the crossing receiver.
Sanders with 4 catches for 52 yards, and the Giants continue to have problems putting pressure on Mark Rippon. First and 10 from the 11-yard line, and it's Ernest Biner inside the 5, charging toward the goal line, and he gets in for the touchdown. Tremendous forward wall by the Redskins, and Ernest Biner has scored his 2nd touchdown of the game.
Watch the blocking. Watch the blocking that happens here on the left side of the offensive line for the Redskins. How do you take the heart out of a proud team? You go after what was their strength, and their strength was a team on defense that could attack you and pound you. Well, they're the ones getting pounded right now. They're arm tackling, they're not coming off blocks, and too many of them are ending up on their face on the ground.
Chip Lohmiller makes the score 14-0. So Ernest Biner now with 66 yards and 2 touchdowns, and that offensive line leading the way for the Redskins. In the Giants nothing, Crowd getting restless, and an impressive 96-yard drive that used up nearly 9 minutes. And Ernest Biner with his second touchdown, and Dave Meggett on the line drive kick returning for the Giants, who have their work cut out for them now. Return of 20 by Meggett.
The key there, one side of the Redskins walls out, one side of the Redskins walls in. Leonard Marshall working against Lachey gets free, and watch, he makes kind of a half-hearted effort. Just makes a paw swipe, tries to influence Biner with one hand, gets in the backfield free and can't do it. And the rest of that defense looks a lot less than enthusiastic about coming up and trying to make a tackle. That wasn't Leonard's fault, but you got to think that defense from the linebackers back in the backfield, over the safeties, you got to fill on a play like that.
That's Pepper Johnson they're working on. First down on the 28-yard line. Graham with a rollout being chased by Mann, and the pass. Derek Brown had to be turned around. He was covered downfield by Todd Bowles, an extra defensive back. The Giants, trailing 14-0, need to do something offensively against the third best defense in the NFC. Otherwise, this game could get out of hand early.
And that was a rookie and a rookie. And that's one of the things Ray Handley's got to put up with in this situation. He has no choice at quarterback, and he's trying to get something going with his rookie tight end out of Notre Dame, Brown. But neither one of the rookies had much of an idea on that one, and Brown's frustration kind of said it all.
Graham is 1 for 4 passing. Second down and 10. Going to the air again, and the pass is caught by McCaffrey, trying to get some extra yards. And he picks up 8 with Monty Coleman making the tackle. McCaffrey has become a favorite receiver of Graham's.
And this is the kind of pass and the kind of drop you've got to have a young quarterback making. Confidence, timing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go. So you need to throw those balls on timing. You need to throw them with confidence, but more importantly, you need to get rid of it and get some sort of momentum going for this young quarterback. You can't make him stand back there and try to throw against Richie Pettibone's defense. They'll confuse him too much.
McCaffrey leads the Giants in receiving and came off a career best last week against the Dallas Cowboys. Timeout, and we'll return to Giant Stadium. Big changes in the Giants lineup this week to try to stir them up. They have lost 3 straight games to Denver, Philadelphia, and Dallas. And moments ago, Lawrence Taylor talking to the Giant defense. That's happening right now to urge them on. Looks like a guy who may still have some football in him next year.
Well, and he's a guy that knows a lot about football. I don't care if he's playing 36 holes a day. He's standing on the sidelines there. Watch that last effort on that 96-yard drive against his defense. He's got to be telling his buddies like Leonard Marshall, that's not Giant football. That's not how we're supposed to do this.
Third down and 2 from the 36 with 4 wide receivers and Meggett coming out of the backfield. Graham is going to have to run for it, and he's close. Depends on where they spot the ball. Wilbur Marshall, Kurt Govea, and Charles Mann all converged, and we may have a measurement.
You know, Graham was looking at Meggett the whole way, and as soon as he saw Meggett circling out of the backfield, wasn't available. It really shows you something when a young guy like this is willing to sort of give it up and go after and say, the heck with my body, I'll go for that first down. There wasn't any sliding him there.
And it is a first down for the Giants. Kent Graham, an 8th-round draft pick out of Ohio State. In his first NFL start last Thanksgiving against the Dallas Cowboys, and the Giants have had 9 days to get ready for the Redskins, a team that they have had the number of over the years. They've won 7 of the last 9, but this is a different club with the rookie quarterback and LT not there defensively.
And the Giant team that beats the Redskins is a Giant team that can run the ball.
First and 10 on the Giant 39. Here is Hampton with a good gain up the middle. And if it weren't for Alboyd Mays, Hampton may have gone all the way. A gain of 18 yards and the biggest offensive show by the Giants thus far.
Which we talked about. If these Giants do it, they do it up front. Watch the middle of the offensive line. Williams, Roberts, Cratch, Wilbur Marshall trying to fill. Jared Bunch, the offensive guard in the backfield, gets a nice block on him. And 27 Hampton is a defensive back's nightmare. You know, you're talking to Brad Edwards last night, and he says the last thing I want to see is the other number 27 coming at me with nobody around him.
Here's Jared Bunch. You don't want to see him coming at you easy. at 260 pounds. What a combination in the backfield if they get blocking up front. And a gain of 8 yards by Bunch with Andre Collins and Wilbur Marshall making the tackle. Bunch coming in as the second leading rusher, but Hampton right now needs 60 yards for 1,000 yards rushing on the season, and that would be back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Only Joe Morris has done it for the Giants in the past.
This is the confidence booster, running the ball like this, not only for the offensive line, but for that defense on the sideline.
On 2nd and 2, Hampton. Shane Collins, the tackle. And that will bring up 3rd and about 1.
But that, that's the kind of thing. You run the ball, you pound it at them, you let them have it. That's what you have always come to expect from the Giants. Phil Simms was never a quarterback that had to throw the ball 35, 40 times a game. And when Ray Handley inherited this Bill Parcells team, it was a team that played solid defense, ran the ball, and when the quarterback threw about 20 times a game and completed about 12, they won football games.
3rd down and 1. 8-man front by the Redskins, and the pitch is to Hampton. He's going to get enough, I believe, for the 1st down. Redskins converge, the pickup of about 2. John Brantley and Monty Coleman make the stop as the Redskins were playing run all the way with an 8-man front.
Well, we'll see a little duel of the 27s here. Hampton 27 and Edwards 27. We talked about Edwards not liking him in the open field. There's one of the reasons you don't like him in the open field. He's about a 225, 230-pound running back who's got some wiggle and can move.
There's the play selection. The Giants have been running the ball, and they have to continue to do this more than pass. Randy says that's their style, and it's worked against the Redskins in the past. Putting it up on 1st down, and the pass dropped by Cross. Howard Cross had it in his hands, turned around, and all of a sudden didn't. But Graham put it right there.
And that's something this guy will do. Kent Graham, you talk about a night like this, or a day, whatever time we want to call this, late afternoon stuff.
It's dark. It's nighttime.
It's windy. It's cold. Kent Graham's the kind of quarterback, I don't care about the wind. He only throws the ball about 10 feet off the ground anyway. He puts some serious zip on the ball. The wind doesn't affect his balls that much.
One thing he told us is that I'm going to keep an eye on to where Darrell Green lines up. Right now, Darrell Green is at the top of your picture. Defending against Callaway. Graham trying to get away and has to run. He'll pick up something and dives forward with Kurt Govea making the stop, and a gain of 7 yards for Graham, ad-libbing against the tricky Redskin defensive push.
Well, we talk about the matchup with William Roberts at left guard working against Johnson. Watch Johnson come free, but some smart savvy out of Graham here, though. He knows he doesn't have anything. He watches his zone drops. None of his receivers are open. He decides just to sort of get it, and he's got the good sense and the presence of mind to get to the ground before one of these guys can put a helmet in his ribs.
Randy, he's a heady quarterback, and he's got a lot of poise. He has shown that thus far. 3rd down and 4. Jumpy Geathers and Fred Stokes are in as a pass rusher. And we're not going to get the play off. We'll have our 2-minute warning here at Giants Stadium. Giants with their best opportunity to score so far, trailing 14-0. Coming into this game knowing that their pursuers, the Green Bay Packers, have won, and the team ahead of them, the Philadelphia Eagles, in the wild card fight have also won. So this becomes an important game for the Redskins. The Giants drive so far 9 plays. It'll be 3rd down and 4 for the Giants.
If anybody gets the ball here, Dick, you make sure it's not Dave Meggett if you're the Washington Redskins.
He's in there along with 3 wide receivers. 3rd down and 4. Graham has time, and the pass is incomplete. It was intended downfield for Callaway, and Brad Edwards was covering on the play. Pressure by man that time on Graham.
Well, the reason Graham has to put the ball where he does is watch what happens to Dave Meggett coming out of the backfield. There's Monty Coleman. He's got him on the outside. Wilbur Marshall's got him on the inside. There's nowhere to go. Graham tries to force that one, and he's lucky Edwards didn't get that one.
Number 59, 10-yard penalty.
Holding penalty against the Giants. Brian Williams, the center. With Bart Oates not starting, that ends a string of 127 consecutive starts at center.
We may see Bart Oates in there yet because Brad Edwards, Brian Williams is a little bit shaken up there.
It'll be 3rd down and 14. And the Giants will call a timeout. And I'm sure we'll see Oates.
And there's Bart practicing those shotgun snaps. But let's take a look at this and see what happened exactly to Williams. Right here working in the middle against Jumpy Gathers. Watch out. Usually things like this are piles. A pile hits you, somebody hits you. And in that case, it wasn't a pile. He just got torqued around and twisted, but he's being torqued around and twisted by a guy that I played against in Jumpy Gathers. It's probably one of the strongest men I ever played against in my 13 years.
Began his career with the New Orleans Saints. Imagine a team like that, as strong as they are defensively, allowing a guy like Jumpy Gathers to get away, and they're still one of the strongest defenses in the NFL.
Well, it says something being able to give up something like that and not missing a beat. But the young defensive linemen like Wayne Martin in New Orleans make it a lot easier to give up at Jumpy Gathers.
Saints have already clinched a wild card berth in the NFC. Vikings had a chance to wrap up the NFC Central, and they failed to do that in Philadelphia today.
But that was a big penalty because it effectively put the Giants out of put it out of Willis's field goal range.
3rd down and 14 on the 37-yard line. Out of the shotgun is Graham looking for a receiver, and he's got McCaffrey, makes a good catch, but he's short of the 1st down. That may improve their field goal try. Johnny Thomas, a great special teams player for the Redskins this year, put a strong hit on McCaffrey, and the crowd wants them to go for it on 4th down. They're not going to do it, though.
They're going to get these points on the board, Dick. They're not going to mess around here and go down 14-0. It's very important, I think, for these Giants and Ray Hanley to get some points out of this possession.
Matt Barr was put on injured reserve, and Ken Willis, who has yet to try a field goal in a Giant uniform, was with Tampa Bay. This will be a 44-yard attempt, with the Redskins leading 14-0. Mark Ingram is the holder. And Willis's kick is long enough, and the kick is good. And the Giants get their points with 1:05 remaining in the 1st half, a 44-yard field goal. Used to do under Bill Parcells, different offensive line and a different offensive style at that time. But if the Giants had failed to get the 1st down, you could have just about sent everyone home.
It's a smart play by Ray Hanley. He knows he's not probably looking at a real high-scoring game, and if you get a chance to put some points on the board, you don't worry about the other 70-odd thousand head coaches in the stands here. You send your kicker out there and you have him put one up.
It's a good thing they don't take a vote of the fans to decide who the head coach would be, because Ray would have been gone by now. But that's George Young's decision, and he said he would take everything into consideration after the year. Willis will kick off. Brian Mitchell and Desmond Howard are back deep for the Redskins with 1 minute and 5 seconds remaining in the half. And a low squiver. And it'll be Howard picking it up inside the 15-yard line. And Desmond Howard is finally dropped at the 25-yard line by Jesse Campbell. So far for Rippon, this is the way the Redskins like to have him operate their offense. 8 for 10 for 87 yards.
And it's exactly the way you want to play when you play the Giants here in Giant Stadium. You put the ball on the ground, and your quarterback only throws high percentage passes. Here, with this much time, you got timeouts. A lot of people would say, let's take some chances. Let's get it going. No reason they shouldn't keep the same conservative game plan in here, but get Ricky Irvins out of the backfield involved.
Here's the running back on 1st down from the 25. 3 wide receivers. And here's the draw play to Irvins going outside, but Renee Thompson fills it up in a hurry and holds Irvins to a gain of only 4 yards. Redskins still have 2 timeouts remaining, and unlikely they'll try anything rash here in the final minute.
Oh, Joe Gibbs cannot be real concerned about getting any kind of a drive here going. He knows he's got this 14-3 lead. This is just fine for the Redskins. They haven't had a lot of success here at Giant Stadium. They know they've won this half. Don't do anything at this point to jeopardize that 11-point lead.
Redskins with 2 timeouts left. The Giants 1. But we're not expecting to see any timeouts the rest of this half. Second down and 5. On the draw play again, it's Urban going outside. And the clock will stop with 5 seconds remaining as Urbans is ridden out of bounds by Keith Hamilton and Renee Thompson. Now the clock runs, and that will do it for the first half. So Ernest Biner scores 2 touchdowns, and the Giants get a late field goal to get on the scoreboard. And that is the end of the first half with the score. The Redskins 14 and the Giants 3.
CBS Sports coverage of the night.
Second half about to get underway here at Giants Stadium. The Redskins lead the Giants 14-3. Ken Willis will be kicking off for the Giants. And back deep, Desmond Howard and Brian Mitchell. Howard on the left for the Redskins, who had good balance in the first half offensively with 87 yards rushing and 87 yards passing.
And look for more of the same. Conservative passing and just smash you in the face kind of running. A lot of counters, a lot of movement up front.
And the kick is headed for Mitchell at the 5-yard line. Mr. Do-It-All for the Redskins with a fine return, and a penalty marker is down at about the 15-yard line. 2 of them. Ken Willis, the kicker, making the tackle. And we may have a penalty, and it should be against the Redskins. Johnny Thomas with an illegal push.
He rode all the way down the field on Renee Thompson's back.
Here's Gary Lane.
Legal use of the hands. Block above the waist. Number 21 on the defense. Half the distance to goal line. First down.
I got to think Gary Lane meant 41, not 21.
The number was 41.
He just corrected it. The last guy that Joe Gibbs might use on a kickoff return team would be either of his 2 running backs, Biner or Urban. Mark Rippon with an impressive first half. 8 for 10. First down on the 8-yard line. Let's see if the Giant defense can capitalize here. Get the ball back in good field position. Ernest Biner, who scored 2 touchdowns, gets a couple on first down going off the left side.
And the key for these Giants on defense in the second half is that the guys up front, the defensive linemen and the linebackers, they got to be making the tackles, because in the first half that was not the case. The guys up front were not getting off the block. Look at that. When your secondary making 14 tackles, that means that running back's getting at least 5 to 6 yards back into your backfield before you get a crack at making a tackle. And for Leonard Marshall and the guys up front, that is not a good sign.
First time these teams played, Brad Edwards of the Redskins had 18 tackles against the Giants. Rippon on second down and 8, and the pass is juggled, and it is caught by Terry Orr. His first catch of the game, and a pickup of 5 yards will bring up 3rd and short. Mark Collins, the cornerback, on the play.
And you look at this Giants defense, both times they've come out early in the first half. Early now, a lot of fire, a lot of bounce in their step, a lot of pride. They look like the defense you expect to see. Can they keep that up? Can they stay within the confines of Rod Rust's defense without Freeland?
3rd down and 3. The ball is at the 15-yard line. Sanders, who had a big first half, goes in motion. Design rollout, and Rippon's pass is incomplete. He was going for Art Monk. And the Giants were there in coverage, led by Mark Collins once again, and it is 4th down.
And a nice job by Collins and all those defensive backs and linebackers in coverage. Now this is the play you see a lot out of Rippon and the Redskins, the quick little shallow roll, trying to drag somebody back across, and in this case it was Art Monk. But lots of coverage right there. Rippon had nowhere to go.
Kelly Goodburn will kick from his goal line, and Dave Meggett close to midfield at the 45 of the Giants, looking for a return. Here is Meggett at the 44, looking for room. Meggett gets into Redskin territory, and the Giants got what they wanted. Good field position as Matt Elliott, who was a starter at center last week, makes the tackle. So the Giants with an opportunity here, trailing 14-3 with instructions Kent Graham from head coach Ray Handley.
And what Kent Graham and this offense needs to do is exactly what they were doing last time we saw him with the ball. And that's run the ball effectively and keep this young quarterback out of trouble and out of too many situations where he has to read this defense. If he does throw it, go 3 steps, go 5 steps, and go on timing.
Ingram wide to the left, Callaway to the right. On the 45 of the Redskins, and Rodney Hampton gets a big burst up the middle and is upended just shy of a first down. Brad Edwards and then Danny Copeland, the 2 safeties, make the tackle, and a gain of 9 for Hampton.
Well, we talked about the surge in the blocking of the Redskins in the first half. Watch this surge by the guys in blue right now. Good job by that offensive line and the entire front of the Giants. And a lead block on Wilbur Marshall was the key that broke things loose. Look at Jared Bunch. Got those feet underneath him, got the shoulder right underneath Wilbur Marshall's shoulder pads. And when you hit a defender like that with that kind of velocity, even a Wilbur Marshall can't come off and make a tackle.
Fred Stokes has replaced Shane Collins at right defensive end for the Redskins. 2nd down and 1 on the Washington 36. They go to Hampton again, and Hampton, collared up high, is going to be stopped for no gain by Wilbur Marshall, who is really having an outstanding season, maybe his best since coming over to the Redskins.
Well, you talk about him going to the ball. Last play, Bunch got a chance of getting on him. Right there, his instinct. You talk about reading. We mentioned Govea earlier. They read formations, they read blocking patterns. Right there, Cratch did not have a chance to get on Wilbur Marshall, because as soon as that ball was snapped, Marshall knew what gap he was going to, and the blockers had no possibility of getting at him.
So 3rd and 1 set up by the Giants after picking up 9 yards on first down. 2 tight ends. Bunch is a wing back to the right, and Hampton up the middle. Marshall tries to shove him back, but he may have enough of the forward motion for a first down. Hampton is the workhorse today and now has gained 47 yards.
And that was just a good man-up job in the middle of that Giants offensive line of taking control of things. And Wilbur Marshall was lined up at middle linebacker and could not fill fast enough to stop that being a first down. You know, you need a little penetration up front to set that middle linebacker up. And watch what we should see here is we're not going to see much penetration from the defensive line, and we didn't see it on that 3rd down play.
Shane Collins back in, and Stokes goes to the bench. 1st and 10 on the 34. Ingram goes in motion. Penalty marker down, and a play fake. Graham looking, going for the end zone, and no one there. Not even close, as Tim Johnson, who had a sack in the first half, decked Graham after he let go of the ball. The penalty will be against the Giants. Backfield in motion.
Illegal motion. Number 82 in the offense. Penalties declined.
It was the
2nd
wide
down.
receiver Ingram. Penalty is declined.
Well, you saw Graham throw that ball into the end zone near nobody. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that everybody was covered. Look how long he holds on to it. And finally, Tim Johnson puts him down with a little bit of authority. Just kind of a take a seat kind of a hit. Wasn't one of those pound actions like Jeff Hostetler got 2 weeks ago, where he was knocked out and is still suffering dizziness off that concussion.
2nd down and 10. They fake a draw play. Graham's pass is low and incomplete. Ingram was the intended receiver, and Green was back there along with Wilbur Marshall. Marshall is all over the place defensively for the Redskins this afternoon, stopping the run at the line, and in that time in pass coverage. And that'll bring up 3rd down.
And those last 2 plays are an illustration of how frustrating things can get at times for a young quarterback. You saw Graham on that next to last play, held it, had to throw it into the end zone. Right there, he was trying to force something in where it really didn't belong.
They line up with 3 wide receivers and Howard Cross, a wing back to the left, out of the shotgun on 3rd down. Graham's pass, McCaffrey's got it, and he loses the ball. The Giants pick it up, and they rule it a completed pass and a fumble, and the Giants recovered. And alert on the play was Mark Ingram, I believe. It was Ingram who picked up the fumble by McCaffrey, and the Giants keep it going, and a gain of 14 yards to the Redskin 20.
You know, McCaffrey's out of Stanford, is kind of a warm weather guy. In the last 2 games here at Giant Stadium against Philly 2 weeks ago, and now here he's had a hard time holding on to the ball after some good hits here in cold weather. But that was just like he dried up. I'm sure Jim Fassel, our offensive coordinator, says, all right, McCaffrey, you get it. If you're going to get tackled, you want to bounce it back here to Ingram. Maybe he can get a few extra yards.
and make sure the bounce is a true back. First down on the 20-yard line, and Hampton busting off, breaks the tackle, and picks up a couple of yards. A gain of 5 yards for Hampton. The Giants trying to take advantage here in their first possession of the second half. They held the Redskins and got good field position. They settled for a field goal in the final moments of the first half to get on the scoreboard, trailing 14-3. And we have 9.5 minutes remaining in the third quarter here. Second down coming up.
And Graham showing some good patience. Looks like he might have been flustered a little bit the last couple passes he's thrown. He zipped that one into McCaffrey, though, last time. And right here, you got to look at them getting that ball to McCaffrey in the end zone.
Second down and 6, and the pitch goes to Hampton off the left side. Hampton will have the first down and ridden out of bounds by Brad Edwards. But the Giants are in business. A 9-yard pickup by Hampton. And it was Chris Callaway, the wide receiver, who laid a key block on a Redskin defender.
Well, if you've got a running back that's got some wiggle and has some size, you take advantage of his speed. Little option play. They run the option right there on Sean Collins, the defensive end, and there was nobody out there. Alvoy Mays is getting blocked by Ingram.
Rodney Hampton needed 52 yards to pass Joe Morrison to move into 8th place, all-time Giant running back. He's done it now with 60 yards, and first and goal on the 5 for the Giants. And the inside handoff to Jared Bunch nets maybe a yard. It'll be second down and goal coming up. The ball is on the 3-yard line as Kent Graham trying to engineer the Giants to their first touchdown of the game.
And that offensive line up front doing a good job. And here is where the Redskins always get tough on defense, because you look for a Wilbur Marshall to take a blitz, take a gap, try to make something happen. This is a defense that'll slant.
And here is Jared Bunch, and he dives to about the 2-yard line. And as you saw the Giant offensive line get to the line of scrimmage, keep in mind that Bart Oates is still in its center for the shaken up Brian Williams. Third down and goal coming up. There is Oates the center, and Cratch, who replaced Eric Moore, who's injured with a bad thigh this week. This is the Giant drive. It's chewed up nearly 5.5 minutes, and the 8th play coming up.
There's no happy medium here. Play action, I don't know if the Redskins are going to bite on a play action pass here. You've got to go wide and try to outflank them.
Callaway on the left, Ingram on the right. Third and goal, and Hampton up the middle. No signal. He is stopped short of the goal line, and that will bring up 4th and goal. And the Giant bench is signaling, let's go for it. Forget about the men on the field, the benches, and they will.
I think you got to go for it here. This is completely different from the end of the first half, where you want to get some points. Your offensive line has been dominant on this drive. You got to give Big Jumbo Elliott and Roberts and that left side of your line a chance to get in there and get your 6 points.
Bradley and Geathers in defensively. The Giants going for it on 4th and goal from the 1. Touchdown. That is Rodney Hampton's 11th touchdown rushing this season.
Everything's timing. Linebackers have to time it perfectly. But when you've got blockers coming up and chipping out the legs and the sides of those diving linebackers, it gives a running back like Hampton a chance to get up there unmolested over the goal line.
And you do not hear any Ray Must Go chants now. The Giant fans are back in the game on Rodney Hampton's touchdown. He's gained 64 yards, and now Willis will try to bring the Giants to within 4. The kick is good, and it's 14-10. That'll do a world of confidence for Kent Graham in the Giant offense.
Watch it again. Linebackers diving over the top. Good blocking by especially Otis Anderson and that entire Giants line.
Gibbs' worst fears may be realized here. He said, we don't match up well with the Giants. Philippi Sparks getting the crowd into the game, and so is Ray Handley applauding his team's effort as they scored a touchdown on 4th down. Willis is kicking off in a low line drive kick, and it's fielded by Orr. He bobbles the ball, and down he goes, and now listen to the crowd. And we'll be back. Things over with the Redskin defense. They've been nailed for their first defensive touchdown, and now the Giant defense. They stopped the Redskins cold in the first possession of the second half, and now looking to keep the momentum perhaps on the Giant side and get the offense the ball again.
Well, if there's a group for the Giants that needs enthusiasm and needs some momentum, it's definitely this defense.
1st and 10 from the 20. Ricky Irvins is the running back now. They've alternated Biner and Irvins. And on the draw play, here's Irvins. And Irvins is stopped cold by Ed Reynolds. So the defense does the job on 1st down and holds Irvins to a gain of 1.
What a difference here on this play by the inside linebackers, especially Reynolds, reacting on this counter where they weren't there backside filling things up. Right there on that play, Reynolds read that thing perfectly and filled up behind his defensive line.
Reynolds filling in for the injured Steve DiAsi. 2nd down and 9 at the 21, and the posse in the lineup now. Rippon gets some pressure, and the pass is to Urban, complete to the 25-yard line. And the Giants with pressure. It was Pepper Johnson on the tackle, but Eric Dorsey got to Rippon after he released the football, and a gain of 4 yards.
A little bit of confusion right now from the Washington Redskins on those last 2 plays. A little bit in the huddle, guys going back and forth, coming to the line, not quite sure. Big Ed Simmons had a knee problem already coming into this game, and another hobbled Washington Redskin offensive lineman.
Joe Jacoby will replace him. All of the offensive linemen have been hurt, and Simmons looks like he is really hurt. 3rd and 5 for Washington. Rippon's pass up the middle, and it's caught by Gary Clark. And a big 3rd down reception will quiet the crowd. Greg Jackson on the tackle, and a gain of 20 yards to the leading receiver for the Redskins. So they come in big on 3rd down.
And you feel a big sigh of relief out of this Redskins offense. Pepper Johnson just can't reach that ball. But that's the kind of timing that a Mark Rippon and a posse, in particular Gary Clark, have had in the past and has been missing so far this year. And if they're going to get the ball down the field, it's the timing between the quarterback and the receivers in this Washington offense that is critical.
Winding down, the 4 minutes remaining in the 3rd quarter. 1st down on the 45 of the Skins. Leading 14-10, and here's a reverse. Ricky Sanders gets by a defender. Sanders is running into a sea of blue jerseys, and he is stopped. And the Giants reacted well to that reverse, and no gain when all is said and done by Ricky Sanders. It was Greg Jackson and Mark Collins that time.
Watch 2 things. First, watch the reactions of the guys in blue, how they don't bite too much. Second, watch Rippon coming out here as a lead blocker. Trying to do his best, actually kind of giving up that body. But I tell you, nice job by Jackson and Renee Thompson and everybody on that side of the defense. They did not overreact, and that's why that reverse didn't work.
Jackson said we're a long shot for the playoffs. We talk about the future a lot, but we're still in it, and we'll play hard. 2nd down and 10. Desmond Howard checks in the game for Washington. Rippon's pass, and it's caught by Sanders. Going high to make the reception, and that was a 17-yard pickup. Renee Thompson makes the tackle into Giant territory.
What a nice job. You can tell some of these wide receivers that have experience. They drop one early that's right at them. Then they get a tough one like this. They climb that ladder, and they come down with that ball. And the reason that ball was a little bit high was Rippon was getting some pretty serious heat from Hamilton.
Keith Hamilton, one of the youngsters that the Giants are going to work into their defensive alignment, a rookie 4th-round pick out of the University of Pittsburgh. So the Redskins with a 1st down on the Giant 37. Big passes to Clark for 20 and Sanders for 17, and Irvins off the left tackle gets a big gain. The Giants have been not effective in stopping the run, and a 16-yard pickup by Irvins, with Pepper Johnson finally bringing him down.
And for the first time this half, we see the Giant defense again not getting off the blocks too well. Watch the acceleration, Irvins, right now. Sanders getting a pretty good block, or more of a pester than a block. But if the defenders aren't getting off, a back with that kind of speed like Irvins is by a defender before he has a chance to react.
Redskins with the 3 tight ends, Middleton, Jenkins, and Orr. First down on the Giants' 20-yard line. Irvins, not much there as he tries to test the right side, and Eric Howard, the nose tackle, brings him down after no gain.
Well, they went back to that well, I think, a few too many times. They've wham blocked. You know, when you bring that H-back in motion and you wham block down on that nose guard, and they've given Eric Howard that look about 5 or 6 times right now, and he wasn't buying that one that time. But this drive so far, is this an answer to the New York Giants and their drive or what? I mean, this is the kind of thing that you expect in this division. One team pounds it down and gives it to them. The other team says, okay, fine, turns it around and sticks it in the other one.
Again, 3 tight ends. The one receiver is Sanders in motion. Second down and 10. Play fake. And Rippon looking for a receiver, and he's got Terry Orr, and Orr is going to get in. Let's see for the signal if he got knocked out of bounds. Touchdown for the Redskins. Terry Orr with a 20-yard reception. And if there's anything to knock the wind out of the hopeful Giants' sails, it's the Redskins coming right back with a touchdown after the Giants cut the lead to 4.
Well, it's that little half roll again. But watch the job Raleigh McKenzie does right there on Marshall. Opens up the time. The pump fake. The coverage is dropped. Orr sneaks right behind Canavis McGee. And when Canavis McGee let Orr go, it was just as much as saying, here's 6 points.
Chip Lohmiller. It's perfect. And the Redskins now lead 21-10. Terry Orr with his second touchdown catch of the year.
Watch Orr and Canavis McGee right here. And then watch Mark Rippon pump fake. And watch McGee just suck right up right now. See ya. Dump it right over his head. That's exactly what Rippon was looking for, with some sort of overreaction.
Short end over end kick by Lohmiller, and it's Jared Bunch returning for the second time, and he is tripped up, and a late flag is down as well. So that penalty could be against the Giants. It normally is from that spot. So the Giants will start from in their own territory, putting more pressure on Kent Graham. 21-10 the score.
Holding on the return team, number 83, 10-yard penalty, first down.
That's John Brandis, who was claimed on waivers from the Redskins yesterday. An unusual move against the team you're playing that week. Who committed the penalty for the Giants. He was a tight end and a long snapper, was hurt and put on injured reserve, and the Redskins tried to get him by procedural waivers, but the Giants claimed him, and I don't think Joe Gibbs, although it's part of the rules of the league, was happy about what the Giants did.
Well, the worst case is Joe Gibbs is usually a kind of suspicious kind of guy about spies and everything else. You got to wonder how much of the game plan was affected by Brandis being picked up.
First down on the 17-yard line, and a fake and a pass to Callaway. Can't get away from the 2 defenders. First it was Alvoid Mays, and then guess who? Wilbur Marshall in on the play, but a pickup of 5 yards. In fact, the problem that the Redskins had, what would happen if Brandis were to tell the Giants what the game plan was for the Redskins? Brandis said he wouldn't do it, but then again, you never really know, and so that put the seed of doubt in the Redskin mind this week.
The favorite scene that always comes to mind in that situation is Sir Lawrence Olivier. Remember that old marathon man with the drill? Is it safe? Are you going to talk? We're paying you.
And the give is to David Meggett, and that should be the last play of the third quarter. Now, I wonder if Brandis was in any dentist chair yesterday. And that is the end of the third quarter here at Giants Stadium with the score, the Redskins 21 and the Giants 10. Redskins lead the Giants 21-10 in the NFC playoffs. The 49ers and Saints already are in the playoffs, and the Cowboys will make it with a win at Denver or a loss by the Redskins against the Giants. The Cowboys are playing the Denver Broncos, and the latest score we have is 24-13. So if Dallas goes on and wins, they will be in the playoffs as well. 3rd down and 3 from the 24-yard line. Kent Graham out of the shotgun, and an inside handoff to Meggett. Nowhere to go. Giants spread their offensive set and try to sneak one through inside, but it netted only 1 yard, and that will bring up 4th down. It was Tim Johnson who made the tackle.
And as physical and assertive as that last offensive possession was for the Washington Redskins, that one defensively was every bit as assertive as the offensive possession. You got to think Joe Gibbs and this offense for the Washington Redskins want this ball back just to run it, the counter, and the offensive line taking things over.
Ruben Rodriguez, who punted 11 times Monday night against Seattle and then was dropped by Denver, will be kicking. Brian Mitchell is deep. It's not a good kick. It's end over end, and it takes a bounce. And it hits a Redskin, and let's see who recovers the ball. Did the Giants catch a break, or did the Redskins recover? Johnny Thomas was right around the ball.
And that is a cardinal sin for a special teams player.
And he's been a good special teams player for the Redskins this year.
We usually have the receiver, and everybody on that return team starts yelling something, whether it's fire or something. So you know that ball's coming, and you stop blocking, and you get out of the way.
It's Washington's ball, and a close call for Joe Gibbs' team.
Here it comes. Watch the ball. Right onto the back, right there on the back of the leg of Johnny Thomas. And Brian, he is lucky, because I know Wayne Sevier didn't want to see that.
And we'll return to Giants Stadium after this message from your local station. You're watching the NFL on CBS. Tries to go wide and comes up empty. Making the tackle was Perry Williams and Canabus McGee, and a loss of 1 yard on the play. The Redskins with a lead here of 21-10. The Philadelphia Eagles, the team they're looking to stay even with in the wild card race, won earlier against the Vikings. And the team behind the Redskins, the Green Bay Packers, won. So the Redskins need a victory to remain 1 game ahead of Green Bay for the final wild card berth. 2nd down and 11 on the 36-yard line. And here's Irvins again, trying to keep it on the ground. As you predicted, and a short game will bring up 3rd and long in a gain of 2. For an update on the Cowboys and the Broncos, here's Greg Gumbel. Greg?
All right, Dick, a Cowboy victory puts Dallas into the playoffs, and Troy Aikman doing his share. His 3rd touchdown pass of the day, a 1-yarder to Jay Novacek at the back of the end zone. 24-13 Cowboys, 4.5 minutes to play. 3rd quarter at Mile High Stadium, Dick.
All right, Greg, and of course the Cowboys and 49ers have their own battle for best record in the NFL and ultimate home field advantage in the playoffs. 3rd down and 9 on the 38-yard line for Washington. Giant defense trying to close down Rippon, and his pass up the middle is caught by Gary Clark, and a 1st down at the 40. Every time Mark Rippon has need, the big yardage on 3rd and long, he has clicked to either Sanders or Clark. That good for 21 yards with Guyton and Jackson defending.
And more importantly, he's clicked in the exact same position every time. Getting that inside-out help on the zone. Perry Williams just can't stay with Gary Clark, and they've completed those passes in the same 17 to 20 yard area, where he's just putting that ball right in the seams.
Brian Williams, the starting center for the Giants, has a broken right foot. Bart Oates has been back at center since the injury, and a 1st down on the 40 of the Giants. Here is Irvins going off the left side. Leonard Marshall penetrates through, and there'll be a loss on the play. You know what's interesting, Randy, looking at Sanders and Clark with key receptions today, is that Art Monk, who came into the game with a reception in 144 consecutive games, the longest current streak in the league, has yet to catch a pass in the game.
Well, what makes that even more interesting is the way that Mark Rippon has been throwing this ball has been pretty much underneath possession-type passes, and you'd think that'd be custom-made to get one to 81.
Monk is split wide to the right on 2nd down and 12. to 10, the Redskins in front. Rippon is rolling out. He's looking to the right side. He's going deep for Art Monk, and Monk is there for the catch and the touchdown. So not only did Art Monk finally catch a pass to extend his streak to 145 consecutive games, he catches his second TD pass of the year, 42 yards to beat Mark Collins.
And that's just one of those plays, you know, they're just going to happen for you. Doesn't matter if it's a great year or a bad year. Sometimes the guy you're playing against running a pattern just trips and falls down. And Collins just trips in the back of Art Monk's feet and falls down. What was the key to that play was not so much Collins falling down. It was more the protection Mark Rippon got back there, because he was there forever.
Chip Lohmiller's extra point is good, and it's now 28-10. I'm sure Mark Rippon was as pleased as anybody that he hit Monk, and it was a touchdown. Second touchdown catch of the year for number 81. Last week, Mark Rippon had a good day, not a great day. He's having an outstanding afternoon. 15 for 18. Biner with 2 scores. And Washington using the short pass for those yardage, and Hampton 64 rushing yards and the lone Giant touchdown.
And right now, this is a 1991 kind of a day for this Washington Redskins offense. They're being brutally efficient, running the ball, pounding the ball, and every time they need a big play, they get it to a receiver, and every time the Giants make a mistake, they take advantage of it.
And Art Monk, who was held without a touchdown catch, Randy, until last week against the Cardinals, 2 in 2 weeks. Now Lohmiller kicking off. Let's see how the Giants react. Meggett returning for New York. And he is dropped at about the 20-yard line by Tony Barker. So Art Monk, right in his name of the Hall of Fame, and you can put it in cement.
Of the National Football League is sponsored by your Toyota dealer, who invites you to see the big new Toyota T100 pickup. McDonald's, what you want is what you get, guaranteed at McDonald's today. And by the new Bic Twin Select for normal and sensitive skin. There's a Bic for every beard.
10:47 remaining in the fourth quarter. The Giants have a 1st and 10 at the 20-yard line. You can see that many of the fans have already left Giant Stadium. With the team trailing 28-10, Graham on 1st down flips it up the middle of Hampton, spins away from Wilbur Marshall, and finally is brought down by 3 or 4 Redskins after a pickup of 7. So the fans leaving. We did not hear too much of disenchantment. We did early, and then when the Giants staged their touchdown and came within 4, everyone was on the side, which only says, Randy, that all fans want is the team to win, and they'll get off the coach, they'll get off the players, and everyone else.
Well, this is an organization, and this is a team, I should say a team more than an organization, with some serious problems.
They're a team in transition, that's for sure, and their prognosis isn't very good in the near future. 2nd down and 3 from the 27. Protection for Graham, and he flips with Ingram, and a 1st down up to the 40-yard line. And right now, let's send you back across the river. It's been a tough swim to Greg Gumbel for a Dallas-Denver update. Greg?
Keep your head above water, Dick. At Denver, Tommy Maddox, the rookie, with his 3rd touchdown pass of the day, a 23-yarder to Reggie Rivers. Dallas's road to the playoffs, not an easy one through Denver today. It's 24-20 with 2 minutes play in the 3rd, Dick.
Plenty of time to go in this game. 28-10 here, 9:32 remaining. 1st down on the 40-yard line. Graham rolling out. He's getting better protection, going deep for Callaway, who's double covered, and no flag is thrown. The official gave it a long, hard look. Danny Copeland and Darrell Green both were covering Callaway downfield.
And Danny Copeland had absolutely no idea where that ball was. He was playing Callaway the entire way. Keep an eye on him, and let's see how much he actually looks back. I got to think Copeland got away with one. Watch this. He bangs him. He's got the position. He's got the right to the position on the field. And Graham wants to make a call. Give him a yellow flag. Graham will go down there and drop one. This guy does a heck of a Phil Simms imitation, doesn't he? He's watched Phil Simms films, I think, because he reacted exactly like him.
Simms has helped him a lot in the film room. 2nd down and 10, and the quick pass to Ingram, who's hit immediately and holds on to the ball. That was Danny Copeland, who has been playing with an injured neck. Some question as to whether he'd be in there, but he's starting in place of Todd Bowles and a gain of 5 yards.
You know, this makes it a very tough situation for a young quarterback like Graham, because he really doesn't have the facilities at his disposal to get down the field. He's got to hope that if he can throw a short pass, one of these guys can break it, because Ingram hasn't shown the ability to get deep. Baker hasn't. McCaffrey hasn't. If he's going to get a big play, it might be a breaker by Meggett or a quick run, but that is about it for this offense. It's very limited.
3rd down and 5. Out of the shotgun is Graham. Graham's pass, and he threw it into coverage. That was an ill-advised pass. It was intended for Graham, and Wilbur Marshall broke it up, but that was thrown right into double coverage to Ingram, and that will bring up 4th down. The Giants, you mentioned it, are limited. Stephen Baker was benched coming into this game. If they hadn't had Ingram back at all, they would have had absolutely no semblance of any kind of a deep threat.
It's hard to imagine watching this team over the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks as we have. Hard to imagine this was a Super Bowl team 2 weeks ago or 2 years ago. They have fallen unbelievably in 2 years. And a lot of that goes right over to their defensive players, not coaches.
Rodriguez with a good kick and a fair catch called for by Mitchell. And you just made a good point that we'll have to amplify on, and that is that the players on the Giants haven't all picked up the things they should have picked up. Their favorite is Bill Parcells' New York Giants, although I'll tell you one thing. I think there is no way that Bill Parcells will come back to the New York Giants as head coach, considering the circumstances that they felt he left. It was late. It was May. And I think that there are some people that think Parcells could wave the magic wand here, but there is no way, if fans think that Parcells is coming back, he will not be a Giant head coach again. 1st and 10 on the 8-yard line. Ernest Biner in at running back, and he gets the call and finds a good hole up the middle. So the Giants had the Redskins backed up, and Biner picks up 16 yards before Guyton brings him down. Record-breaking day for Jerry Rice, his 101st touchdown reception, and the Niners rolling over the Dolphins.
Well, that's a guy, too, in Jerry Rice, that's going to rewrite all the record books. And I can tell you right now, the NFL's worst nightmare from a competitive standpoint is don't let San Francisco win this game. It looks like they're gonna, but don't let them beat Minnesota too and go into the playoffs in the end of this year with the kind of momentum they've got going right now, because obviously their defense has come awake and come alive, holding Dan Marino and those Dolphins only 3 points.
And we know about their offense. 1st down on the 25, and here is Biner. And the Redskin offensive line doing a terrific job this afternoon. Ed Simmons was shaken up with a sprained left knee. Biner picks up 8 yards on that carry, with Reynolds making the stop. There's the time remaining in the 4th quarter. But the Redskins offense today, no turnovers. They have not yielded a sack, and they have converted 6 of 7 third down opportunities. In an important game, Dallas leading Denver 24-20, starting the 4th quarter, and it'll be the Cowboys and the Redskins next week at RFK Stadium. 2nd down and 2 on the 33-yard line. It's Biner again, and he does not appear to have the yardage. In the NFC East, the Dallas Cowboys, of course, are the pace setters. Coming into today's action, Philadelphia won. They are 8-5. They strengthen their wild card hopes. The Redskins need to set pace. With a victory, they would also be 8-5. And the Giants, well, they'd be 3 back with 3 to go. And I think mathematically they still would have a chance, but really you could write them off.
Well, you put Dallas and Washington playing each other next Sunday, too, down there at RFK. That is going to be a huge matchup. Remember that first game they played? And things were a little bit tough. A little tough for Joe Gibbs and his Redskins. Mark Rippon was extremely intimidated by that crowd and that Dave Wannstedt defense. 3rd down and 1. Biner has the 1st down. And, you know, we talked about matchups last night with Joe Gibbs. He said, you know, we have trouble matching up with the Giants. The Eagles have trouble matching up with us, and we have a lot of trouble matching up with the Dallas Cowboys, even when the Dallas Cowboys were down. Well, the main reason they have trouble matching up with the Cowboys is what we talked about earlier. It's speed. And they don't match up well with the Giants because it's another kind of big, smashy kind of a team that doesn't have a whole bunch of speed, and they do what each other they do. They have the similar strengths. Offensive lines, good running games. and the speed of the Dallas Cowboys is what gives everybody in the NFC East problems right now.
First down for the Redskins on their 38-yard line. Methodically dissecting the Giants here in the final few minutes of this game. And it was Biner trying to try the left side, and Ed Reynolds stops him for a gain of 2 yards.
You know, we touched on briefly about the Giants and their situation and how far they've fallen. You know, offensively, I don't see a gigantic fall off. They're still a team that can pound the ball on the ground. What they need is what they've needed for a long time, and that's some receivers that can break open a game. And that's something you either got to trade for or you got to draft, but they got to have it. Defensively, I don't think there's more than 3 defenders on this New York Giants roster that could make one of the top 2 or 3 other defenses in the NFL. They don't have much talent.
Ricky Irvin's in at running back on 2nd and 8 at the 40-yard line. And here is Irvins with the carry. And he gets about 3 or 4 yards with Pepper Johnson and Keith Hamilton making the tackle. But with all of that, George Young and the Giant front office will have to make a decision after the year as to whether Ray Handley, whose contract is up, deserves to stay on. One thing that we know, that it will not be pressure by the media or the fans when that decision is made. And of course, the Giant defense playing under a new system of Rod Rust. And frankly, some of the Giant players told us that they're not really learning the defense, that they can point fingers at the coaching staff all they want. They haven't really picked it up.
It's very clear to a lot of people, I think, involved with this team that most of the guys that are whining the loudest on defense are the guys that perhaps have got the less amount of a grip on what this system is going to be all about. You know, there's guys like Jackson, the safeties, and the defensive backs that have to work hand in hand with Rod Rust in this defense. I think the problems lie a lot in the front 7. You can freelance, you can go to the ball, you can do whatever you want. You have to stay in the confines of your defense.
Redskins lining up with a 3rd down and 4 from the 44 with 4:26 remaining in the game. All the movement, but it's a running play to Ricky Irvins. He's looking to run behind his blockers, and he does effectively. I'll tell you, on artificial turf, Ricky Irvins probably increases his offensive efficiency 50%. And a gain of 25 yards with Renee Thompson bringing Irvins down. He's had a good game today.
Well, and Ricky Irvins shows you some of that squirt and some of that speed that Washington and New York don't have in abundance. Because you can't keep running in front of line and behind linemen like that, zigzagging back and forth like that, unless you got that cutting ability and that speed.
Irvin's 25-yard gain is his longest rush of the year. And there is Biner, who, by the way, gained 100 yards, so 169 yards rushing. And Irvins on the sideline as Robert Green, the rookie free agent from William & Mary, gets the call on 1st and 10. He had an impressive preseason. Looking ahead to the Redskins the rest of the way, and as you mentioned, Joe Gibbs said this is the way it should be, playing tough teams in cold weather. Dallas at home, Philadelphia at Veterans Stadium, and closing with the Raiders.
Well, you know what you get in Dallas and Philadelphia. You know those are 2 tough teams. You don't know what you're going to get with the LA Raiders. That could be anything. I mean, the Raiders are playing today against Kansas City, and we're way out in front of them, which you would never, ever figure was going to happen. The Raiders are a real Jekyll and Hyde team, and that's the kind of team that Joe Gibbs probably worries about the most. Not the team he knows. It's the team he worries about is the one he doesn't know what he's getting.
Here's Joe Jacoby, and good news is that Ed Simmons, who suffered a sprained left knee, is back in the lineup for the Redskins. Here's Green again, and he is hit by Eric Howard. As we wind down, close to 3 minutes remaining in the game. A 1-yard gain that time for Green. Let's bring you up to date on the scores. Redskins will remain 1 game ahead of the Green Bay Packers for the final wild card berth. And even with the Philadelphia Eagles, New Orleans has already wrapped up a wild card playoff berth. That
was a great win today by the New York Jets, too, over Buffalo.
Was it ever?
To do that and everything in the circumstances with what happened to Dennis Byrd with his neck last Sunday, and the great news today that he can actually move his toes and flex his leg, and those kind of things that make you really realize how important this game really is. I mean, how important is it that Ray Handley has a job when you look at a guy like Bird?
Desmond Howard on the end around is hit by Lamar McGriggs, who then punctuates it with a few words of his own and a gain of 5 for last year's Heisman Trophy winner. Yeah, I think the Jets to have an emotional victory, and that had to be that over Buffalo on the road today. And with Dennis Byrd being able to move his foot and his quad muscles this soon after that tragic injury a week ago brightened everybody's Sunday. And we now wind down to the 2-minute warning here at Giants Stadium. The Redskins in front 28-10, and will return in just a moment. Football League and CBS. This telecast is intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of CBS, the New York Giants, and the National Football League is prohibited. Randy, what do you think the Giants will use as a gauge to decide whether Ray Handley should return next year? It may not be just the one-loss record.
Well, not really. I think it's how the players react. You know, teams take on the personality of their coach, and Ray Handley is not a real motivator type of a coach. He's a guy that expects professionals to be professionals. Unfortunately, in this business, I think that's assuming too much for most professional athletes. Most of them need a swift kick in the rear end, and a lot of them need a swift kick in the rear end here in New York. I don't think Ray Handley will be back in 1993, but if it's any consolation to people that like Ray Handley and his friends, I don't think a lot of these Giant players should be back next year either.
Redskins go for it on 4th and 1, and Green dives forward for the first down. And the Giant fans here today with their tribute to Dennis Byrd.
And this performance by Rippon in this Redskin offense is just exactly what they said they needed to do coming in here. They have been absolutely brutal and efficient in running this offense. They have been nothing short of methodical. It's been a very impressive performance, especially by the offensive line and Mark Rippon.
Do you think the Giants played hard today? You know, that has to be one of the gauges that the people upstairs will see. Did they play hard, even though they're heading for an 18-point setback?
I think the coaches want to coach hard. Everybody wants to do everything hard, but I just think these players right now need a brand new attitude. They need a brand new outlook on the way things happen right now, because especially on the defensive side of the ball, I think their attitude stinks. They think so much about themselves and their abilities, and what are people going to think about us if we're not winners? They don't have enough of that we thought, and they got way too much of that me.
All they have to do is look across the field to the Redskins and Joe Gibbs and his staff, and you'll never see a Redskin player complain. And that's why the stability for Washington weathers all the transitions. That may be the last play of the game. The Redskins will now go 8-5 on the year. The Giants 5-8. Ernest Biner with his second 100-yard game with 2 touchdowns, as the Washington Redskins remain tied with the Philadelphia Eagles for second place in the NFC East. Final score here at Giants Stadium. The Washington Redskins, who have had trouble against the Giants, 28. The New York Giants 10. We'll be back to Giants Stadium.